We'll call the City Council meeting on December 6th to order. Roll call.
Mayor Heidke. Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Amon.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Dockin. Fagerly.
Here.
DeBleek.
Here.
7 present, 2 absent.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the proposed additions or deletions to the agenda. Is there any from anybody? If not, we'll move to the consent agenda. I won't go down the list of the items other than bring to your attention that there are some mayoral appointments. Doug Lindblad to the MUC Commission and Jerry Gesh and Steve Salzer, when Steve's here with us tonight. So,
move to approve.
Second. Questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, with your approval, I'm going to move the open forum prior to the Truth and Taxation hearing, only because it just feels better to me to go right from the Truth and Taxation hearing into the Finance Committee minutes. Is that okay? All right. I don't hear any objections, so we'll have the open forum at this time. First one on the list is John Sullivan. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I'm here tonight mainly to speak on the local lot and sales tax. In November 2nd, 2004, the citizens of Willmar did what you asked them to do and approved a vote to raise $8 million over a 7-year period, if it took that long, to spend $7 million for completion and expansion of the airport and the industrial park, $400,000 for hiking and biking trails, $300,000 for connection of the Blue Line Club and Civic Center, and $300,000 to purchase 60 acres west of Highway 71 at the old Regional Treatment Center. That Regional Treatment Center has not been done because you can buy that for $1 if you want it. So that's out of there. So that $300 can be spent on some of the others. To date, I can't get the exact figures, but to date I think you have about $8,300,000 already, right now. So you are over the $8 million mark already. The citizens gave you what you wanted to raise $8 million. I think it behooves you to terminate that tax now. If you keep it for the next 2 years, you're going to raise another $4 million. Well, that's great. I mean, you can pay more parking lots. But the idea is that we trusted you, and now we trust you to terminate it when it reaches $8 million. You did not buy bonds. You elected to go on a cash basis, so you don't owe anybody anything. You're collecting interest on it. You spent on the industrial park about $5.5 million without even having permission. The FAA hasn't turned that over to you. You spent $220,000 on hiking and biking trails, and another $195,000 on 2 parking lots. And the Civic Center was originally $300,000. You spent $1,071,000 on that. So what I'm asking is, I think the citizens deserve, being they put their trust in you, that you should give them some trust back and terminate this tax now. in 2010. You've collected your $8 million. That's what you've done. It just, I think it's a no-brainer. And I know the finance chairman kind of agreed with me, but he couldn't get any other council members to agree with him. And I think that's sad. I think it's greedy. Greed is the only word I can think of if you want to keep it going. I don't think the citizens of Willmar would ever, if I have anything to help with them, give you another local option sales tax. I really don't. If you don't trust them now, they're not going to trust you later. So that's my feeling on that. And just a side note on that same thing, I've been trying to get the information and nobody will give it to me. Dating back to that 2004 date, the whole thing wasn't done right. The guidelines of the law, state statute 297A.99, was not followed to the letter. That's fine. I mean, everybody says if it's not illegal, it's not wrong. Well, if it's not right, it is wrong. So that's something I'm still waiting for answers on, and nobody will provide them for me. I addressed a councilman with that issue because you are my elected officials, not staff. I asked you for information. You should be able to get it back to me and not have somebody from staff contact private citizens. You're elected. You are our employee. They are your employee. If you need to get the information from them, that's where you get it from. So that's all I have to say, and I hope that you will consider ending that local option sales tax because you've collected all over your limit already. And it's probably more than that. I can't get the exact figures, but so I just took the last half of 2010 and took the same as the first half, and it came up to about $8,300,000. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right. Virgil, did you want to speak or not? That's up to you. It's up to you, Virgil. It's up to you. Okay. All right. All right. Then we'll move on, and we'll go to the Truth and Taxation hearing, and I'll open the hearing, and Mick is introduced our city administrator to the public, and this is Mick Schmidt, city administrator, and Mick will run through the budget for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and guests. This is our Truth and Taxation hearing. It's a process that we go through each and every year, although I don't know that it's any longer a required process, but I think it's an important process nonetheless because it's an opportunity to share some information with the community and talk about some of the issues that are important to the city of Willmar and how we're going to finance all of our activities in the coming year. And the process starts out early in the year when we have a meeting with the mayor, who we being administration, a meeting with the mayor who's charged by the city charter with putting together a proposed budget for the coming year. We oftentimes begin that process as early as the spring, work our way through it with the mayor throughout the summer. The mayor turns his proposed budget into the city council the first part of September, and then that gives the city council several months to go through the proposed revenues and expenses. It culminates at the hearing tonight, but a couple weeks ago, for the benefit of the viewing public, the Finance Committee met with the full council, and we did a rather detailed review of the mayor's proposed revenues and expenditures, including discussions with Rice Hospital, the municipal utilities, and the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. None of those budgets, incidentally, are part of the mayor's proposed 2011 budget. What you see, and then I provided some handouts for the council. We've been having some technical difficulties. I didn't know if this was going to work, although had we not been able to put it up on the screen here tonight, we would have been able to show some of these slides to the viewing public at home if somebody can keep up with me and remember what page I happen to be on at the time. But apparently things are working well. So I'm going to kind of buzz through this summary document. And I don't mean to brush over it quickly intentionally, but there's a lot of information in there that we use throughout the year and probably is not real important in your deliberations tonight. I'm going to start with page 4 in the handout, which talks about the total proposed 2011 budget. And you'll see on the top line that number of $25,694,742. That was the mayor's total proposed budget for 2011. The revised number reflects some action taken by the Finance Committee on November 22nd of this year, where there was a motion, a recommendation, and subsequently a vote to bring to the full council tonight a reduced levy amount. In the mayor's proposed budget, as you'll see later on in the presentation, the total proposed levy increase was in the neighborhood of $256,000, and that number has been reduced in half, and that's that revised number you see of $25.5 million. Of that $25 million, 12.7 is for the city's general operating budget, 1.6 in the mayor's proposal for capital improvements and equipment. And in response to the Finance Committee's action a couple weeks ago, we've revised the capital improvements and equipment purchases downward by a like amount of $128,000, and that's to reflect the decrease in revenues by cutting the proposed levy increase by 50%. And then you have total other operating debt of $11.2 million. And there's a big jump there, admittedly, but it's all attributable to increased debt responsibilities for the new wastewater treatment plant, which just recently opened. On page 5 of the handout then is a pie chart which shows you the total revenues that are used in the budget, and it's by those different activities, and you can see that by far the largest items in terms of our revenues are our current property taxes, the local government aid program, and service charges. And there's then that, following a whole host of other types of revenues in smaller amounts. And we'll talk a little bit about the property tax and the LGA program in a little more detail as we get near the end of this presentation. And then the following few slides, if you're following along in the paper handout, kind of break down each one of those revenue classifications by the amount attributable to our budget, and we eventually then get to page 13, which is a breakdown of our proposed expenditures throughout the year. I want to spend probably an extra minute or so on the pie chart here, because I think it's important to note that our largest expenditures are in the areas, and I'll exclude the wastewater treatment plant because that's an enterprise fund, doesn't factor into the city's general fund. But in the city's general fund, our two biggest expenditures are in the areas of public safety and public works. And I think that's important because I recall not too long ago when we did our community survey, and those two services, those programs, were at the top of our list. In fact, the public works activities were the #1 ranked public service by those who responded to our community survey. In general government, which represents about 9% of our overall expenditures, we're talking about a total expense of $2.2 million. Public safety, which makes up our police and fire departments, represents about $4.6 million of our budget. I think what's interesting to note that neither the local government aid program or the city's property tax levy would cover the cost of our police and fire departments. It would barely cover the cost of our public works department had that been a standalone activity. And then you can see the how the rest of our proposed expenses break down. And in the handout, just like under the revenue section, we have each of these categories broken out. Under general government, where I talked about the $2.2 million expense, these are the different departments that are covered under that category. You can go down that list, but very quickly I think you'll find that without exception, most of them are within hundreds of dollars of the cost of that same function or activity in 2010. And there's a breakdown of public safety showing our police and fire protection, leisure services, which includes a number of activities, including this RAC 8 program, which we're participating in as we speak, the Aquatic Center, Library, Senior Center, the Civic Center, leisure services, and the auditorium downtown. Whoops, I went too far. There is a page 19 that talks about some of the non-operating expenses, like our capital improvements, and again the wastewater treatment plant is included. There's a section that deals with some non-departmental expenditures. Our sales and use tax, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and then of course all of our special assessment bonds and the payment of the principal and interest on the debt service would also be included. And then page 20 is breakdown of our proposed capital outlay program for the coming year. I indicated earlier that I had made some adjustments in that since your November 22nd meeting to reflect the reduction in the property tax levy. And on page 21 of your handout are some of our non-departmental expenses. And then page 22, I think we all recognize that at our committee meetings, this is one area where there's historically been a lot of discretionary spending, and a lot of the activities that we have historically participated in have no longer been included in the proposed budget just because of the current economy and our ability to raise sufficient revenues to continue to participate in those programs. And you can see that some of them have been zeroed out as most recently as in the coming year. But this is where we set aside some money to meet our obligations, some long-term obligations that we've committed to with the Humane Society and the development of the Taunton Stadium project. The Willmar Fest activities are funded from non-departmental, as is our participation and long-standing participation in the Meals for Wheels program. This next page in the budget is a little confusing, I think, to a lot of people, sometimes including myself. But I have the luxury of going up to Steve's office and getting things like this cleared up. But what we're doing here is attempting to establish and explain the relationship between the local government aid program, those are dollars that we receive from the state of Minnesota, and the city's property tax system. And there's a very complicated formula, as you can see, that eventually gets us to a number that we can use in the development of our budget. And in the 2011 budget, the mayor opted to utilize the full amount allowed under law, which would suggest then that we were using the maximum amount under the formula that we were expecting to receive in 2011 through the local government aid program, and it's probably in the neighborhood of $4.5 million. And then that, by using that number, we're able to plug in what our proposed levy should be, and subsequently put together our budget. Now, there's likely to be a lot of discussion in St. Paul beginning in January regarding the future of the local government aid program and what it means to the city of Willmar. I think that we all saw the latest state budget forecast, which is projecting a $6.2 million deficit, and the state needs to come up with a way to deal with that. And I think everything will likely be on the table, including local government aids. In my discussions with officials at the League of Minnesota Cities and with representatives of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, I think we're all kind of bracing ourselves for the idea that we may find out mid-year 2011 that we're not going to get as much as we had anticipated in developing this budget. And so the City Council had asked us to put together some ideas about how we might deal with those mid-year cuts. We actually did that a couple years ago. It was very successful. We did not have to use all of those ideas, but what it did provide us with is a little bit of a cushion in 2009 by suggesting that we could get by without doing certain things in 2009 and then not spending the money to do those or other projects. We were able to utilize that money in the development of our 2011 budget, and I think that was very helpful indeed. And then we're getting down to the actual discussion of the levy and trying to make some comparisons. In 2010, our property tax levy was $3,668,000. In the mayor's proposed budget, we were looking at a levy of $3,924,000. Although that was a $256,000 increase, it did represent about a 7% increase in the levy. There were some council members that weren't comfortable with that number, and as I mentioned previously a few minutes ago, there was a motion to recommend to the full council tonight that that levy be reduced by 50%, dropping it down to about a $128,000 increase, or a revised total of $3,796,000. I have well, this is just kind of a breakdown of our tax levy and a history of it going back to 2002. But I did put together with the help of my friends in the assessing office, property tax comparison sheet. I don't go into a lot of detail here trying to explain a lot of different types of property, but just to give folks an idea of what this means in terms of being a residential homeowner here in Willmar. You can see on the far left columns, we're dealing with 3 residential properties with market values of $100,000, $150,000, and $200,000. The taxes payable in 2010, the tax capacity rate, where we're currently at, is 28.642, and if we were to apply the proposed levy in the mayor's budget to those numbers, you'd see that our tax capacity rate would go to 30.271 and result in a property tax at $229. That's an increase over the $214 in 2010. If you extrapolate those numbers a bit further and talk about the action taken by the Finance Committee meeting the other night, our property tax capacity rate would be 29.284. And then based on those different market value homestead properties, you can see what happens to the property tax. In the case of the $100,000 home, you see an increase of $8.17, $13.34 on a $150,000 home, and $18.47 on a $200,000 home. There's some information at the bottom of that page that talks about market values and tax capacity comparisons. You can see that over the course of the year, we do show a slight increase in the estimated market value of property in the city of Willmar. It's over $1 billion now. It went up slightly for values in 2011, resulting in a slight increase in our tax capacity. And most of that is due to new construction activity. In checking with the assessor's office, we didn't see a lot of huge increases in any particular neighborhood throughout the community with regard to property values. And then finally, in my handout, I know the mayor's very fond of sharing this information with anybody who will pay attention to it, but I think it says something. You know, if you look at this chart, you will see that of all these regional centers that we've identified with over the years, we show comparisons of population and tax capacity, and then we show the property tax rates. And Willmar, the city of Willmar, its share of our overall property tax is relatively small compared to not only other taxing jurisdictions within our own system, but with regional communities throughout the state of Minnesota. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'll head back to my spot, and you can take some testimony from others who may be interested in talking to you about the 2011 budget. And then the Finance Committee minutes will follow the public hearing when it's closed. And in the Finance Committee minutes are 3 actions required of the City Council if the Council is indeed comfortable with moving forward with the 2011 budget at this time. If not, then we have a second public hearing scheduled for December 20th. It's called a continuation hearing in the event there are some issues that arise tonight that you're not comfortable dealing with. Gives you a couple more weeks to work out those details. Otherwise, there will be 3 resolutions in the Finance Committee report. One is the resolution adopting the new levy, and whatever that amount is, whether it's what was proposed in the mayor's budget or recommended by the Finance Committee on November 22nd. A second resolution is needed to approve the levy of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, which the Finance Committee recommended for approval. And then the third resolution would be to adopt the overall budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. I especially like your property tax comparison for the public's interest. I think that's a nice comparison for people to look at, and I would only comment that you've got noted on there. I'm sure a lot of, if not most of our citizens recognize it, but that's the city's portion only that you were talking about, and we're not talking about the county or the school or anything else. All right, so with that, we'll open the hearing to public comment. So is there anybody that wants to address the budget? John?
I'm trying to make a habit of it. John Sullivan, 508 Southeast Street, Willmar. I just want to compliment the Finance Chairman, Dennis Anderson. He has opened up the Finance Committee to the general public. He is doing one of your goals is treating us as owners and being forthright with us and letting us talk. I plead to the citizens of Willmar, which everyone's looking at me, to please be a part of it. These 8 gentlemen work very hard. If we got ideas, or if you got ideas that can help them, maybe give them some ideas. There's a lot of businessmen out there that deal with budgets every day. I'm sure they'd accept a little advice, I hope. But I just want to thank Mr. Anderson for what he's done in opening it up and allowing the citizens to speak at the finance meetings.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Anybody else? This has been a long process. I don't know, you start the process late May?
Sometimes
the mayor? And we get the mayor's proposed budget, Councilmember Anderson, what is it, August?
We got it on August 23rd.
And from that time on, the Finance Committee goes over it almost on a bi-weekly basis, and then it comes to the full council and in a full meeting as they go over it. And tonight is the culmination of all of that work. It's been a tough one. It's partly the unknowing on what's going to happen in 2011. LGA is a large portion of our budget, and what's going to happen we really don't know. We have no idea. Got some indications, but we really don't know. So anybody else? If not, I'll close the hearing and bring it up to the council.
Goes to the finance.
Oh, that's right. We go to the Finance Committee. I'm sorry. So we close the hearing and call on Councilmember Anderson for the Finance Committee minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. As is indicated, this was a Finance Committee meeting that was held on the 22nd with the full council present. First item was some budget summary presentations. The HRA was there, and representing them was their acting executive director, Nikki Ilgen, and financial accounting management specialist, Kelly Zeidman. Ms. Ilgen reviewed with us some of the highlights during the past fiscal year. The Willmar and County HRAs are wrapping up the 2009 Small Cities Development Program, which included rehabilitation in southeast Willmar and also in Pennock, as well as commercial and rental housing in the Central Business District. Also discussed was the sharing of services with the County HRA and a study that they're conducting regarding a possible merger of the city and the county HRAs. The HRA is requesting a 2011 levy in the amount of $170,000, which is the same amount levied in 2010. That's to support its general administration expenditures, subsidized housing projects and other housing projects, rental assistance programs, property improvement programs, and various federal and state programs, and the city's comprehensive Small Cities Development Program. We thank them for their presentation and noted that the Finance Committee would be taking up their levy request a little bit later, and I'll have a motion on that as we conclude these minutes. Next, the Willmar Municipal Utilities was present, and they were represented by the General Manager, Bruce Gomm, and the Superintendent of Water and Heating, Bart Murphy, and Commissioner Marv Cray was also present. Mr. Gomm reviewed the utilities' proposed 2011 preliminary budget and noted that regulatory requirements have increased, and that's resulted in expenses going up. Transmission costs were also increasing. Mr. Gomm noted retained earnings deficits for 2011 and 12, and the utilities may need to request rate increases or borrow from their reserves. He reviewed the water division and challenges with costs continuing to grow and revenues going down with decreased usage. The Willmar Municipal Utilities Commission is considering a public hearing to begin the process of a rate increase in their water division. The heating division is maintaining funding levels for 2011, but may need to reevaluate their rates in 2012. Operating revenues and capital improvements were reviewed, including a modification of the power plant to burn biomass and corn cobs. Plans to upgrade the office facility and operations center were discussed, and it was noted that they also had budgeted funds to acquire property if it fit their needs and became available. We thank them for their presentation, and that was received for information only. Then we recognized the Rice Memorial Hospital. They were represented by CEO Mike Schramm and CFO Bill Fenske, and they gave us some information on their 2011 budget. Mr. Schramm reviewed with us the 2011 Rice Hospital budget, which had been approved by the hospital board. The hospital continues to see the trend of inpatient volume decreasing and outpatient volume increasing. With the addition of an orthopedic surgeon, surgeries have increased 8.8%. Mr. Fenske reviewed budget details with us, noting the total estimated net operating revenue of $97,101,515. Their expenses coming in at $96,060,379, resulting in a net income of $1,071,136. We had a good discussion with them, and we thank them for their presentation. Then we moved into a discussion of the mayor's 2011 budget. The mayor made some comments regarding it. He commented that about the city in relationship to the state of Minnesota and its projected multi-billion-dollar deficit. His remarks included concern over the future of local government aid, which our city administrator also addressed. He reviewed the 2011 proposed levy of $3,924,764, which reflects a 6.99% increase over 2010. Then the committee kind of really got into the budget in some detail. We discussed fees that the city could enact and or increase, and included such things as civic center ice time, airport usage, franchise fees, or privatization of certain city services. Administrator Schmidt informed the committee that based on previous action of the council, he is working on an analysis of public works possibilities for privatizing. And we continued our review looking at some of the expenditures. One of them was lobbyists. We discussed at length the use of lobbyists. We currently have contracts with Turch and Associates, Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, and I should also add the League of Minnesota Cities. Meals on Wheels had been discussed, but it was a consensus of the committee to fund that program as it had been presented. We talked about quiet zones. We were informed that 2 quiet zones are included in future projects. In 2011, a zone is proposed at Willmar Avenue, and in 2013, another on Trott Avenue. We talked about the RAC 8 reserves and indicated that that could be a possible source of funding because their reserves are growing. Administrator Schmidt reviewed property tax comparison payable in 2010 and 11, similar to what he just did. And Finance Director Okens explained levy limit laws and local government aid formulas and how each impacts the mayor's proposed budget. Then we reviewed non-departmental budget, including contributions to downtown, that's the Main Street Willmar, and cultural diversity. And we came to the consensus that funding to those programs, if it's going to be reduced, should be reduced over a period of time. Finally, we came to some actions. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I would introduce a resolution that the levy be reduced from $3,924,764 to $3,796,734. I introduced that. Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. Councilmember Ahman.
We get a breakdown from what the issues we brought up at the meeting, Mick and Dennis and the rest of the council. What issues or what particular items were revised or changed in the budget from what was adopted by the mayor or was recommended by the mayor? Do you have specifics on that, what the breakdown was?
I guess, Mr. Ahman and members of the council, my preference would be to simply state that we would make the adjustments in our capital outlay and equipment program. And to answer your question, yes, I do have those. I don't have them with me, however. What we did was we shifted some equipment purchases out to later years and brought different ones in to close that $128,000 gap. But just as importantly, I think it would be prudent for us to wait until we see what happens in the legislature, because I also handed out on November 22nd a preliminary 3-phase approach to reacting to local government aid cuts. And we've already revised that based on the $128,000. But you know, we have up to $1 million worth of ideas as to how we would respond. It's just a little premature. And then to help us in that process, we would just simply delay major capital purchases until next summer to get a better handle on what's happening.
I understand that it's a budget, and we'll have to revise it maybe as we go. Yeah. Those particular issues are really dependent on LGA and how bad that hit's going to be. Thank you, Nick.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. I think one thing to remember is we are setting the parameters here tonight. I mean, this is how many dollars we're going to get on the levy, so anything we do is going to fall within those confines.
Right. Anybody else? Oh, Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. On our contract with Turch and Associates, When is that effective? Is it January to January, or December 31, or what? Does it follow this budget? Or do we know?
I think it's essentially become a month-to-month arrangement with Turch.
So that
In other words, we have a provision in our original agreement that allows us to terminate it at some point in time.
maybe we should, I don't know, review quarterly or at least semi-annually where we're at with, and what's being done, or if we're seeing any benefit from that particular office in 2011. That would be my suggestion, because our part is what, 27,000? Is that what it is?
Yes.
And then the utilities pays 27. So the citizens of Willmar are paying the total amount. That would be just my suggestion, to see what happens for 6 months, if there's anything that if we can judge if something's been done, quiet zones, or some more money for the waste treatment plant or whatever. But I think we need to do that and be prudent about it. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally agree, and I guess I would ask Steve Okens, will you please make sure that gets on our, the second meeting in March, please, and we'll do that on a quarterly basis. I think that's very appropriate.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, this is a resolution. Kevin, roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
We then move to the discussion, on the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I would introduce a resolution that the Housing and Redevelopment Authority levy be set at $170,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? No discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
And then finally, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed that the city 2011 budget be set at $25,566,712, and I will introduce that resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. Second. Discussion. No discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
I just want to thank the Finance Committee. This was a long discussion that we had throughout the fall, and I don't think there were many things that were left unturned, and I just want to thank them for their diligence. That was all of the work of the committee that evening, and unless there's questions, I would move to file these minutes.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to file these minutes. And all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I would thank the Finance Committee also, and also staff with the cooperation that we had in going over it all. The next item on the agenda is the Community Development Committee. Councilmember DeBleek.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First item on our agenda was the Midwest Technology Management Company lease agreement. Steve Salzer and Tim Miller, representing Midwest Technology Management Company, LLC, were present to update the committee on the status of the Mid-Central Research and Outreach Center. The project involves Midwest Technology Management Company, the City of Willmar, and the University of Minnesota, and the Minnesota MinSCU system, and included the renovation of a building on the Midwest Technology campus to be used for technology research and miscellaneous technology services. This project has been submitted to the state for pre-design approval, which is anticipated to occur within 10 days. At that time, the executed leases can be submitted to the Minnesota Department of Employee and Economic Development, and the grant agreement with the city can be finalized. The city of Willmar was awarded a $1.25 million grant for this project to be utilized for the building renovations. Construction activities are anticipated to be completed by mid-2011, at which time occupancy by the tenants can be achieved. Staff informed the committee that ultimately 2 leases would be required. One lease would be between Midwest Technology Management Company and the city for the building. Another lease would be between the city and the university as a sublease. Additionally, there is a management agreement between the city and Midwest Technology Management Company, transferring all construction, operation, maintenance, and responsibilities and costs to Midwest. The submittal for reimbursement under the grant will come at the end of the construction, as there will only be one submittal for the total amount. This was noted that the grant agreement needs to be signed by the city and deed by the end of December 2010. After considerable discussion, the committee recommended the resolution be adopted to approve the long-term lease for the building between Midwest Technology Management Company, LLC, the City of Willmar, subject to the city attorney's approval. Also, that the mayor and the city administrator be authorized to sign and execute the lease. And I'll introduce that resolution, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Questions? Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. The city attorney has reviewed this and everything's fine?
I know that he's taken a look at them and he's offered some comments.
There's still some minor issues remaining and differences between the lease between the city and Midwest and the sublease between the city and the U of M. Some things that I think should be uniform, and they aren't right now, but I think it's, like I say, minor and should be corrected soon.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rahman.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Priest. I asked this question at the committee also, as far as the responsibility of funds and who's going to be responsible for the operation or the renovation of the project out there. I understand that we are going to be pretty, our hands are going to be off the construction project. The Midwest is going to be doing the construction design phase, the hiring their own architect or engineer to do the performance of the project, and hiring their own contractors. What I'm questioning again, and I'm questioning the transparency or the checklist with government funds. With that amount of money, how is it being counter-checked? And I'm not really sure if this has been done in the past, but I don't recall anyway of any amount of money for $1.25 million being given to a free enterprise for the sake of renovating a building at their own discretion without some input from government, since it is government funds. And I'm just wondering, is this unique, or is this totally something we've done before in the past? And the reason why is just counter-checking, you know, different governments. I think we should be responsible for it. I'm just wondering if maybe we should go in another direction of maybe having the bids brought forward publicly, in an open bid process, or if that's part of the plan, I'm not sure. I just want to make sure that the perception of the public isn't going to be that this is an open door policy for the grant, and that somehow it's being checked.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Steve Salzer is here. It might be worth our time just to have him briefly explain the process and address the concern raised by Mr. Rahman and how that's being safeguarded.
Welcome, Steve. You want to state your name and
Yep,
for the
Steve
record?
Salzer. I'm the general manager for Midwest. So yes, we were planning on taking care of the construction. We have all our crews in place already that we've done with all the other construction projects and so on. So, and as far as accounting for the money, when we did the pre-design, the use of those funds and what they were going to be spent on was part of the pre-design process. And as far as that, we have our own accounting department, and all of that is all accounted for, down to the last penny. So that's kind of our intention of going that route.
Mr. Mayor, when at the committee meeting, we had available copies of the pre-design document that Steve's talking about, and this was submitted to the state and reviewed, and just today I received a letter from the Department of Administration, Mr. Gordon Christofferson, who's the pre-design program manager, indicating that following their review of the pre-design document and the terms and conditions of the deed grant, they are signing off on the project. So it's covered in, the process is covered in the pre-design. The people doing the work are going to be expected to follow that, and there will be audits, I'm sure, by not only the Department of Deed, but others as well.
And Davis-Bacon does apply, so we need to follow the Davis-Bacon wage rate requirements, which that's something we will handle and do the interviews and make sure that they're being paid appropriately and that the contractors are following those rules. And also, when we apply for reimbursement from DEED, of course, they need to approve all the reimbursements. It's a dollar for dollar. So, if there's any question, they would either not allow that expenditure in the end or question it or clear it up. So there'll be some accounting at the end, too, when we actually ask for the reimbursement.
Steve, this isn't a typical project that the city is accustomed to when dealing with deed grants. Maybe you can go back a little bit and explain how we got to that grant in the first place.
Yeah, it started about 2.5 years ago, actually, so it's been a long process of putting this together. We had an opportunity to apply for a bioscience infrastructure grant through DEED. We approached the city back then and we asked if they'd be willing to be a partner in this. Of course, with no financial obligation on the city to be that partner, basically just to be there, be the public entity that needed to apply for the grant. So it started back then, Midwest, and then we actually started with St. Cloud State University as our educational partner. The university then stepped forward and they wanted to be the educational partner. So that's kind of how the three parties came together. We applied on behalf of the city and they were awarded the grant. So Midwest has been doing all the footwork on putting it together and all the pre-design and so on. So we do not want to burden the city with any cost. And I think you'll see, like in some of Rich's comments in the lease, they still have to do with cost. But I think, Rich, were you talking about a blanket indemnity? And I think that's a very doable thing. So I think we'll work those issues out pretty quickly here.
Steve, maybe for the public's part, can you maybe just briefly tell us what's going to take place in that building?
Yep, it's one of the buildings. It's 18,000 square feet. So there's 3 floors, 6,000 square feet on each floor. They're looking at, on the top floor, a research lab. Actually, the university's hired one of the nation's top avian researchers. She has shown interest in Willmar. So she will have a lab upstairs to do avian research. On the main level, they want to put some extension folks there, and there'll be offices for incoming interns and professors and postdocs and so on to kind of house when they're there. And in the lower level, they want a test kitchen. There'll be some future lab space. And then we're going to have what we call a state-of-the-art classroom for business video conferencing, distance learning, workforce development, and those type things that will be available to the public. And we would encourage everybody to, try to use it or come and use it. We think it's going to be a great resource.
Is this actually going to bring jobs to town? Or?
Yeah, we're looking at, I think I said the other day, maybe 25 to 30 jobs, maybe permanent in the building. But you'll see a pretty fluid mix of people coming. Students coming and maybe doing 6 months of research or learning, or professors coming doing just short research projects and so on. So you'll see a lot of people flowing in and out. But here again, we hope that with them on the campus, we're going to attract more companies, which would lead to jobs with other private sector. So we see it have that effect in the community.
Okay. Steve,
Councilman Rahman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve, thank you for your hard work and what you guys have been doing, because it's been a long process. And before I was on the council, I'm sure the city council, the elders, you might say, and staff worked very closely with you on the whole project, and the community is fully behind you. I want to say that I am also. And I appreciate your efforts on creating jobs in the area that we have ability to grow in. And you've seen the future, and I hope you're right. This is the tax dollars, money is going into your hands to do a benefit to the community, and I hope and pray that everything's going to work out to your benefit.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
Good luck.
You know, and it's not all about Midwest. It's not about Willmar. It's about the region, too. We definitely think this facility will have a regional impact. So that's all good for us out here in greater Minnesota. And it has been a challenge with the University of Minnesota. So we're happy to be where we're at. A lot of times we didn't know if we'd get here. So the rubber's kind of hitting the road now, so we need to get these agreements put in place so we can get the money tied up and the grant agreement signed. So that's why we're here.
Sure. Steve, I also take this opportunity to say thank you for serving again on the Municipal Utilities Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any questions for Steve?
Bruce or anybody, Rich, you want to add anything? Tim, did you want to add something? Or? Okay.
All right. Any other questions? You know, it's fun. I mean, how many years ago has it been, Steve, that
5 years
the state
ago.
hospital actually closed?
Yep, 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yep.
And we were all wondering what is ever going to happen to that property. And it's turning into that jewel that we heard about. And we're very proud of it. And I think we can be very proud of it as a city and as a region.
We thank you for your support. I mean, the community really has been supportive of the project, and without that, you know, it may not have gone anywhere. So, but in the 5 years, we have 19 companies out there now, and we just hit 272 employees. So we're proud of that, and we'll keep pushing forward with it.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Okay. Councilmember DeBleek?
Yeah, we had a resolution that we
voted. We need to vote. We need to vote. We've got the resolution up in front of us. All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Then back to you, Bruce.
Second resolution dealing with that item is that we adopt and approve a management agreement between Midwest Technology Management Company, LLC, the City of Willmar, and that be subject to the city attorney's approval, and also authorize the mayor and city administrator to authorize and execute the agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second introducing this resolution. Questions? Kevin, roll call.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Bruce?
The second item on their agenda was the former terminal building, historic eligibility, and staff provided history of the land release efforts, including the historical review of the former airport site. It was noted that the land release was first requested in 2006. Since that time, 3 separate environmental assessments have been prepared for the old airport property. The only remaining issue appears to be that of the historical designation of the former terminal building and area around that. A recent meeting between staff, the FAA, and SHPO representatives to discuss building conditions and options for moving forward and yielded a new option to the city. The option is to file a challenge to the historic eligibility determination After committee discussed an email from the FAA to the city regarding the challenge procedure, and after considerable discussion, it was a motion presented to pursue the challenge of the historical eligibility determination of the former terminal building and site. And I'll introduce that motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Questions? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a timeline on this, Bruce? I know you mentioned something to the committee meeting, 3 to 6 months or something like that, that we should know whether or not this is going to succeed.
According to the information we've received from the FAA, once they would package and submit the information, including the city's challenge letter, they're required to provide a response or a ruling within 45 days. So it's not going to significantly delay the project. I mean, we've been waiting for a few months already, so we think 45 days is probably time well spent.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bruce, I got a question, and I'm really not sure how to ask it, but National Register of Historic Places, and it talks about the keeper. I mean, that kind of sounds like something from Star Wars to me. The keeper. Can you explain that a little bit?
That is the title given to the individual that is the ultimate decision maker with the for the National Register of Historical Places, and that is a division of the National Park Service. And that was my first thought. Also, was that we've got someone sitting out in Washington in a flowing white robe making these decisions, and it may not be too far off, but that is the route we have to go to make this challenge, and they will make a ruling based on the information that's provided to them.
So it's one individual?
One individual.
I don't mean this to sound condescending to that individual at all, but what do they know about this building other than what they read?
Exactly. They will receive the consultant's information. They will probably be given an analysis or a recommendation from the State Historic Preservation Office, and then they will have our challenge to read, and we'll see if our reasons for challenge stack up against the reasons for making the eligibility determination, and hopefully they can overrule that original recommendation.
Again, I don't want to sound like I'm for or against this in any way, because I hate to see buildings taken down that do have some significance in any way. So with that, I'm going to ask a question about arguments. Is there arguments that are written for and against one way or another that the keeper reads, or?
The keeper will read the justifications submitted by the consultant that made the recommendation for eligibility, as well as a recommendation from the State Historic Preservation Office. The FAA does not have an opinion one way or the other. They are simply confronted with the information they received from the SHPO and their recommendation. That information will be relayed to the keeper along with the city's challenge, and the decision will be made solely from that written record. There's no opportunity for any type of oral argument or anything.
Okay. I don't know who is first, but Councilmember Christensen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. To me, this is just another example of unelected power, like the PCA, MPA, and this guy sitting in Washington somewhere has the authority to do it or not to do. And it just blows me away that we have that.
Councilmember Anderson.
Who writes our objection? I mean, is that something that staff is going to do, or do we have to hire a specialist that knows the jargon and whatever they have to say to present our case in a better manner?
Well, I think our arguments will be pretty straightforward, and to the best of my knowledge, Mr. Schmidt and I will craft that challenge letter.
Okay, good. Good luck.
Any other questions?
We may ask Rich to throw in some legal jargon just to make it look good.
Anybody else? Do we still have the recommendation in front of us?
Yes, I have not voted.
And that is a motion?
Simple motion.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Back to you, Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Item number 3 on our agenda was the graffiti ordinance. The committee reviewed the graffiti ordinance and discussed compliance timeframes with the expectation of weather-related issues. The compliance times were deemed reasonable. Staff explained that discretion was used in writing graffiti removal orders to adjust for circumstances beyond the control of the person receiving the order, such as the weather. The committee asked that the matter come before them in the spring or summer of 2011. If complaints arise regarding compliance scheduling. Item number 4, the miscellaneous. The committee reviewed and updated on the Planning Commission efforts to review and update the zoning ordinance. And the committee also suggested that a list of municipal issues and priorities be prepared for our local legislators. If there are no questions, motion to file these minutes.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Questions? Councilmember Rahman.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. The suggestion on a list of municipal issues and priorities that I brought up at the meeting is just for the council's information, is just since we have new elected officials at the state office, I think this might fit into prioritizing again at our annual retreat before we send that letter as far as what our issues we feel are very important to our constituency and what we feel are important to accomplish those. And it's kind of like a directive to give to the state representatives, so it's written, they can see it and handle it. Anyway, that's the goal of what we're trying to accomplish. I think it might be good for both of us to, or all of us and them, to understand what we're trying to do a little better and more thoroughly. And that was the reason for it. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I'm just going to ask a question on the graffiti. I don't know if Bruce or whoever can answer it, but you talk about weather-related and graffiti. I would assume our macho weather we have right now is a great deterrent to any graffiti. Probably doesn't work, does it?
It's difficult to cover it up or to eliminate it. Thankfully, it's also a little more difficult to spray the paint and to create the damage in the first place. But when we do get complaints over the winter months or the cold months, we definitely exercise discretion in dealing with the public for the removal process.
So which is the bigger problem in the winter? Covering it up or the appearance of it? You follow what I'm asking?
Well, assuming that an individual was able to tag a piece of property, I would think it would be fairly difficult to cover it up and to do an effective job, you know, if you're going to try to do it with paint or a paint product.
But are they even able to do any graffiti in this weather?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They are, huh?
They managed to find a way with warm paints, and like I said, it's easier to put it on, to put the graffiti on, than it is to effectively remove it or to paint over it.
Okay. Pressure washer doesn't work so good in this weather. Okay. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since we're on graffiti, I just have a question. Your procedure, if you find graffiti on a building, you just send a letter to the property owner, Or do you give them a courtesy call first and say, hey, we're going to be sending you a letter?
Typically, it's done by mail. We don't give them a call ahead of time, but again, we use discretion. If in setting the timeframes, the ordinance spells out the timeframes for removal, but we know that weather is a factor, and we let people know that if there is a reason why they can't comply, to call us, we'll discuss it and arrive at a mutually acceptable date. And we've not had conflicts in doing it this way. We receive the graffiti reports from the police department on a fairly timely basis, and then we issue the notices out of our department and have had good compliance. The public has bought in.
The reason I say that is I had coffee with a gentleman a few months ago, and he said he was pretty intimidated by the letter that came from your office. He said a phone call would have worked just as well, and we would have taken care of it right away. So, especially if it's a business owner in town, I could see if they're out of town, but I would think a courtesy call would be wise first.
I believe the ordinance requires us to do it in writing, but again, we can look at other ways to just get it into the tracking system and the record maintenance system. We don't try to intimidate anyone, and I know the person that does these graffiti mailings is a pretty intimidating individual, but I'll ask her to tone it down.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Bruce. We'll go to the Public Works Public Safety Committee minutes. The first item on the agenda was in regards to heat in the Civic Center, and staff came with a request to reappropriate Civic Center capital funding. This was to replace the north main arena furnace. It went out, and it has serviced us for 30 years, so we got our money out of it anyway. But it's a tough system to have to replace. It's a big unit that's hanging up in the ceiling, enclosed system, and they're recommending a temporary fix of radiant tube heating over the north bleacher area. And this would just be a temporary heat. They received quotes, and their recommendation is accept the quote from Magnuson Sheet Metal to install this radiant heat tubing in the north bleacher area, and then reappropriate the Civic Center capital funds. So what I would introduce that resolution.
Second.
Questions? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This comes out of capital unspent funds from when? Last year?
Well, we first talked about 07, but then we talked about 08.
Comes out of 08.
I believe it's 08.
It's money that's there from 7, 8, and I think part of 9.
From 7? I thought that after 3 years, we unspent funds rolled into general fund. Isn't that our policy?
Yeah.
So there couldn't be something from 7 then.
Why is that?
It's got to be 3 years.
8, 9, 10, 10 to 9 down.
We don't spend it in 7. We have 3 years, 8, 9, 10.
You don't spend it in 7, so you don't count 7 as one of the years then.
No, I don't count 6 either when we put the budget together.
Well, I understand the first part of what you said. I don't understand the second, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Councilmember Ahmed.
Just out of curiosity, and hate to ask all these questions, but you said this is a temporary repair?
Yes.
Okay, and then we're going to have to eventually replace the upper unit come spring
Yeah,
or summer.
they want to see how this works, but more than likely going to have to replace that unit somehow. The roof is enclosed. It's a big unit that hangs up there. Really don't know.
welded in place.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. It's up in the ceiling, it's in the rafters. You can't get at it. It's virtually impossible to replace. We could cut a hole in the roof and try to get at it from the top. I don't know if that makes any sense. This is temporary in the sense that we think that we need to get someone to come in and engineer a new heating system for the building, given the fact that we can't replace that unit in the ceiling. And until we get someone in there to do that, we need to have some source of heat. Now, what we're proposing to do can be utilized later on as well, because it'll sit above the bleachers on the north side of the
North side, yeah.
north side of the arena.
And didn't we also talk about having some fans or something because of the way this heat works?
To move
the
it
radiant
around.
heat warms things.
Yeah.
So they want to get it moving to heat the air.
Okay, so you're looking at overhead gas heaters flow into radiant. Okay, I understand. And then that won't be tied into the existing system, so we'll have two separate zones for the building. We'll have the one up on top and this one as an auxiliary, or will that be disconnected later on once the primary one is fixed?
I don't know if that's determined yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you. Just for information, Steve, there's already two other ones on the other side, on the south side. If I'm mistaken. Heaters, tube ones. We just decided to warm up the opposition on the other side.
Good one, Ron.
Okay. Any other questions? This is a resolution. So roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, still talking about the Civic Center and talking about heat. There's another request, and this is for a rooftop furnace and air conditioner for the office area, and that unit recently died also. And that was only 16 years old. The other one was 30 years old. But right now they're utilizing the space heaters during the day to keep it warm enough in there to work. But there were two quotes, and the low quote was from Magnuson again. So I would introduce a resolution to accept the quote of Magnuson Sheet Metal to replace the heating air conditioning unit in the office area and reappropriate again Civic Center capital funds.
Second.
Questions? No questions. That's another resolution. Kevin?
Councilmember DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
We were given a summary by staff that outlined the costs associated with our 2010 street sweeping, and we discussed that information quite at length, and it was the consensus of the committee to revisit the street sweeping program again in the spring of 2011. So this is for information only. It will come back to the committee this spring prior to this street sweeping season. Item number 3, the Airport Commission met September and discussed the current lease agreements for city-owned hangars at our new airport and ways to make them more marketable and useful for prospective pilots. The Commission reviewed other communities' leases and what they permit to be stored in their hangars. And it is the Airport Commission's recommendation to allow ancillary storage of items that are secondary to an airplane in the hangars, as long as the main use of the hangar is for airplane storage. This would not be an insurance liability or risk, and the committee reviewed the hangar lease amendments, and there was a motion that was made to approve the amendments to the airport hangar leases as staff had presented. So I would move the recommendation of the committee.
Second.
Questions? If no questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Fourth item. Rhonda Ray from Donahue and Associates was at our meeting, and she presented a request for an application. It's engineering software programming allowance for our wastewater treatment project 812C for the committee's consideration. A program allowance of $10,000 is included in the contract with Graham Construction. This allowance includes various modifications in the software programming to allow a new facility to run more efficiently. Post-substantial completion programming is required and needs to be approved and released in order for the work to begin. So this is a resolution to approve the application engineering software programming allowance project 812C for $10,000 and authorize the city administrator to execute the allowance on behalf of the city. I would introduce that resolution.
Second.
Questions? No questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The fifth item was a donation to our fire department, and our fire chief, Marv Calvin, presented a request to accept a $100 donation from Larry and Vicki Eisenlohr for use by our fire department. And I would say this has been multiple years that they've made this donation, and we're very grateful to Larry and Vicki. I would introduce a resolution to accept this $100 donation and place it in the fire department's budget and acknowledge the receipt of the donation by letter.
Second.
Questions? All those, resolution, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Amman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Next item is, sorry, I have to file the minutes first, so I will so move.
Second.
Trying to move too fast. Questions? Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item is consideration of off-sale liquor license, West Side Liquor ownership change. Kevin.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, you have before you an application for sale of a business of the current West Side Liquor located at 1600 East Highway 12. It's going to be sold effective 12/12 to S&D Liquor Inc., which has president of Steve Wright, as you may know, the current manager, and Vice President Darren Thompson. They've applied for the license, and we are asking tonight that you approve it with some contingencies. I believe the city attorney has approved the insurance certificate at this point. However, the receipt of a memo from the police chief following full compliance is not received on one item. Well, 2 reasons, I guess. One, he's in Mexico, so he hasn't written any memo. We can overlook that. 2, the property tax on the building has not been paid for 2010, and I believe they were leaving it for a detail of the closing on the 12th. However, we informed them that that's not going to sit too well with the city, and that the license won't be authorized until every penny is paid and every penalty is cleaned up. So they anticipated, I think, doing that a couple days before the 12th when they sign over all the actual inventory and the business name. So at this point, staff is recommending approval of the West Side Liquor license to S&D Liquor Inc., contingent on that final memo from the police chief certifying full compliance with our ordinances.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the license. Questions? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On their West Side Liquor violations, is that wiped clean now with new ownership then, or how does that work?
Yes, sir, I believe that it would.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Rich, want to chime in on that answer? He agrees, okay.
This is a simple motion.
No, sir, because it's alcohol, all alcohol's roll call
All right.
activities.
Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. That's all that's on our agenda. The next is the announcement of committee meeting dates. Finance.
Finance will meet Monday, the 13th at 4:45.
Okay. Community development.
No meeting scheduled.
Labor relations.
Wednesday, December 15th, 4:45.
Public Works, Public Safety will be meeting on the 14th at 4:45. Any miscellany? Nobody gave me any miscellany. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This one question, are we looking at a retreat next year for the council since there'll be a new mayor? Are we going to pursue something like that? I don't think we've had one I don't recall the last one, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Typically, we've tried to schedule one after a general election, especially when there are new members involved. We've tried to do them in town in the last couple times.
Be good to see if we get Mr. New back. Carl? Might be tough, but he was good.
Probably one of the more expensive facilitators we've had. We'll have to examine our budget closely to see if we have enough money.
Okay. Anything else?
Might want to
Something,
mention
Bruce?
that it's tomorrow evening, citywide COP meeting
7th, yes.
at 7 p.m. at the fire hall.
7 and the 7th.
7 tomorrow night at the fire hall. Citywide COPP.
And you have a work session on Wednesday at 4:45.
Yes, and city council work session. All right. Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.